We got freedom to gain, we feed them the game. Turn on the freedom exchange, we freeing your brain. They tryna shackle your mind, no half of us blind. Remember the past, but never go backwards in time. The ancestors lived through us, they help us build a model community. New Africa is soon to be. So tune in to Sister Marsha, Mujahideen, Imam Bilal to get your cultural enlightenment now.
Welcome back to another edition of New Freedom Exchange, your cultural expression for social dignity and community empowerment. I'm your co-host, Mujahideen, here with...
Assalamu alaikum, Sister Marsha.
Alaikum assalam, everyone. It's Imam Bilal here, live and direct. We are New Freedom Exchange. As mentioned, we're streaming live, so please do share the stream this Saturday evening. Also subscribe to our YouTube channel, New Freedom Exchange, and also New Freedom Network on YouTube, and the same goes on our Facebook pages. So if you're tuned in, give us salams, let us know where you're tuned in from, so we can shout you out and have a good night. We have a good program this evening, so very excited for our very special guest this evening. Before we get to that, how's everyone doing on this crispy cold Saturday?
Ooh, crispy. Oh, it's definitely freezing outside, even though I love the cold. It's bitter. It's for sure bitter. But alhamdulillah, life is good. I am off of work for the rest of the year, so that is all that I need at this very moment, because it's just nice to have some time off and have a break and just get to do some things that I like to do. I'm a crafter, so I've been crafting for the past couple of days and making keychains and coasters and all those things that I enjoy doing. So that's alhamdulillah for me. And then Shaitan try to creeping in, bring his little drama in my life, but I fight up against that. So it's all alhamdulillah. How about y'all?
Yeah, it's frosty. I see the sisters had green on today, so I went and put on my green hat. Man. It's like 9 degrees.
He's such a copycat, y'all. He had to go put no green on. Copycat.
I'm trying to be in the spirit. The holiday spirit. Shout out to all the people that are celebrating, the happy holidays and everything. Trying to stay warm. I ain't the Grinch. Is the Grinch green or red?
Green.
Take care.
No, good times. Surviving and maintaining. How about you, Imam Bilal? But I was on a tour, man. But I was rocking the last few days.
Alhamdulillah. We yesterday we went to the men's meeting for the brothers meeting at Honorable Mayor Raz Baraka's monthly men's meeting that they host in the city of Newark. Yesterday was the December meeting with my son, the general from the Bronx, was the special guest. It was very, 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 very much impactful dialogue amongst the brothers about just being active in the community and also protecting the community and taking advantage of the resources in our community to give back and build sustainable community, because that's what the whole topic was. And and also saving our youth, especially the Black men, Black boys, African American boys, is a major, all across the country. It's a major a pandemic that's happening with our young men being affected by gang violence and just violence in general. So that was a heavy topic of conversation about how to reach our young men, and we have very good examples of some organizations that's doing that type of work, at least in some cities across the country. In Atlanta, we have Save Institute, Brother Tiba is doing and his team marvelous work in Atlanta. And then in Philly, we have Brother Muhammad Abdul Warif and Joala Scouts, who are doing similar work as well with young men. And such programs like that, just need to be replicated, across the country. So alhamdulillah, that was a beautiful event. Definitely appreciated networking with the brothers there and look forward to the January meeting, inshallah, to attend. And then also that started real late. So when I got to Marsha El Hadi for the Nikah program with Sister Khalida Akbar, it was already almost over. So when I got there to the masjid, it was about 8:45, because the brothers meeting had started late that evening. But it was good to be with the Mash Al Hadi team there, and their imam and the believers there. So shout out to Mash Al Hadi for the program, and looking forward to catching up with it in January, because I heard it's coming back in January, inshallah. So
Yeah,
look
it
forward to
was a
that.
good program too. So I wasn't in person, but there was an online
Hmm.
option. And so I was able to be there for, I want to say I was there for the whole thing. Maybe I missed like the first 5 or 10 minutes or so, but it was a good program. I think it was a great opportunity to open up conversation about marriage and preparation and what people are looking for and all of that kind of stuff. And I came on to support my sister Khalida Akbar. I wanted to give a shout out to the Service Sisters in
Oh yes, yes,
Charlotte,
yes.
North Carolina, thanking them for inviting me out last week to speak.
Hmm.
It's actually a collaboration between the Service Group, which is the Committee for Advancing the Role of Women in Society. It's a collaboration between Charlotte and Columbus, South Carolina.
Oh,
But we
nice.
were on a campsite in South Carolina. It was a great weekend. I really, really, really enjoyed those sisters. So I just wanted to give them a quick shout out.
You went camping, sis?
I was in a cabin. I was not in a tent. I was not on anybody's grounds. Uh, we had good food. But no, it was a great experience to be with them. It was their 27th annual sisters retreat. They hadn't had a chance to have it since COVID, so they
Right.
missed, I think, 2 in between. But
Yeah.
it was great to be with them. Like I enjoyed the time. Sometimes you get with people and it just feels like you've known them forever, and that's
Hmm.
and that's how I felt with those sisters.
Beautiful, beautiful. Alhamdulillah, that's beautiful. More to come from that, and more of that to come, inshallah. Now, since COVID is relaxed, so we hope to be in person more with our believers in the community, inshallah, to do the work that's necessary to be done. And with that being said, we have our special guest ready with us this evening. Let's go ahead and bring in Sister Jamilah Bashir, who is known as the IEP Coach.
I didn't know what that was until I met this sister. So inshallah, she'll break that down. I'm not the custom acclimated, in that field. So welcome to the platform, Sister Jamilah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Can you all hear me well?
We hear
Yes,
you very well.
crispy, loud and clear,
I'm
sister.
still looking cute and beautiful.
You look cute in your green too. Oh,
But thank you so. Yeah. Oh, now you got to put the hat on. He just want to be a part of the game.
Yeah. And it wasn't even planned. It wasn't even
Right. But thank you for joining us today. I'm actually really excited for this conversation because we're talking about IEPs and talking about education. We're talking about children, and we're talking about making accommodations. And so, and this, there are certain topics in our community, African American and also African American Muslim, that we sort of shy away from. And I feel like this is one of them. So I'm so glad that we're able to have this conversation. So I like us to start off with you telling us about yourself and also telling us how you got into this work.
Sure. So again, thank you so much for having me. I'm Jamilah, the IEP Coach. I got the name the IEP Coach from, I was a guest on, it was one of my followers on Instagram. She had a podcast and she was just like, oh, would you come on? She has a daughter that has special needs. And she was like, I'd just love for you to come on. And I was like, all right. So then when I got on, she was like, oh, I love that IEP coaching that you're doing. I was like, oh, I like that name. I think I'm going to keep that. I think I'm going to have people call me that. And it just fits so well because I was a special education teacher for a little over 14 years. And I was a special education supervisor. So I've always had colleagues come to me for help when it's time to write IEPs, especially if they needed help with behavior goals. I had so many parents asking me questions, like even after their IEP meeting, people would see me in the community asking me questions, and I was like, well, they can't pick my brain for free. I need to do something with this. So I just turned it into an ed consulting company. And so basically what we do at the IEP Coach LLC is we help principals keep their special education teachers from leaving. I know that world. I know what it's like. I know that special education teachers don't get professional development tailored to their needs, tailored to things that they do. So for instance, I was an English teacher. English was my content, but I was a special education teacher. I got pushed into all the English PD. So I didn't get anything that would help me better write an IEP, better how to progress monitor goals correctly. It was more of trial and error. It's more of leaning on your colleagues. It's more of praying you are at a school with an old head who's been in SPED for a long time, who could take you under their wing and you learn from them. It was just a lot of that. And I was just like, oh my God, just imagine how much easier if you actually got some PD and training to help you and coaching to help you. Like, it'll help you in your profession, and it'll help students who have IEPs as well. And it's going to help parents too, because I do serve parents as well, basically helping them understand the special education process and understanding what the IEP is, how to read it, and how to understand their child's IEP.
So what's an IEP for those of us who are not familiar?
So an IEP is an individualized education plan. Students who qualify for special education services get an IEP. And an IEP is just not for someone who has academic needs. Students who are gifted, they have a gifted IEP. It's an individualized education plan for that particular student. I've had students who had severe ADHD, who were emotionally disturbed, but they were also gifted as well. So in their IEP, there's a part that focused on how we're going to support them with enrichment, and then how we're going to support them with their emotional needs, social emotional needs, and attention needs and behavior needs.
Now, I would like to dial back a little bit to the ADHD part, because I feel like that's a major conversation that comes up a lot in special education, is students with ADHD. And there's also some, I won't say controversy, but students who get misdiagnosed with ADHD when they don't really have ADHD. Could you talk a little bit about ADHD and IEP and that connection, and if you'll come across any students who are misdiagnosed or mislabeled with ADHD? How does that work?
So ADHD is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. There are there's an inattentive type, and then you have the attentive type. So inattentive type, that's like a student who is just like not there, not that they can't focus, it's just like they're just not there. And I had a student like that. I'm like, oh my God, you got to get your work done today. He's just so chill, laid back, like, relax. I'm going to pass. Don't worry. That's just how he was. In regards to ADHD, I mean, I've seen a huge influx of that in students. It really depends on, when they're getting evaluated for that, whatever the criteria is. I'm not a psychologist, so I can't speak on that. However, you do see it a lot in boys. And sometimes in regards to like meeting their needs, I feel for some kids, it's very simple, some simple accommodations you can just make in your classroom. I see a lot of boys that get diagnosed with ADHD, a learning disability, or they're emotional disability. You see that a lot. Now with that, I do feel like a lot of times it's a misdiagnosis. A lot of the psychologists that are evaluating these children don't look like us. You don't have a lot of Black psychologists who are doing the evaluations. So yes, you do get some, misdiagnosis. And in some places, I don't want to say specifically the charter world, but in some places, it's as simple as and this has happened this past year. I had a student who was diagnosed as having emotional disability, but I didn't really see it. I didn't see it. He's 8th grade Black boy. I don't see it. The team, we didn't see it. His clinician, we didn't see it, and we expressed, and mom didn't see it either. So I told mom what she needed to do to request a new evaluation and why she's requesting it. So with that, I had the psychologist contact me. He was like, well, why do you want to change? I'm like, we don't see these behaviors. We don't see that he has an emotional disability at all. And so she was kind of fighting me on of reevaluating him. And I'm like, he needs it. He doesn't have. I worked with students that had an emotional disability. I'm like, he's not it. So of course I got all the time to go back and forth with people. So I have no problem doing it, which I did. And I'm happy I did, because when he got reevaluated, the evaluator said they saw no evidence of him having an emotional disability at all. At all. The mother was so happy, everyone's so happy. And then what I found out was, me and my director, we went back into his history. So going back to when he first got an IEP, he had ADHD. His diagnosis was OHI, other health impairment. That's where ADHD falls under. And I was like, well, how do you go from ADHD to ED? I said, it doesn't happen that way. And my director told me, well, and this is the charter space, psychologists used to attend their IEP meetings, and they would change the classification right at that meeting. And it made me just think, how many children of color did this happen to, where you just change the classification and maybe the parents really don't know about it? You know what I mean? So it was just, that's where I'll say there is misdiagnosis. And if parents aren't educated enough and advocate for themselves and their children, or just have someone in their corner who can advocate for them, they don't know. And they don't know what to do or where to go. So yes, that does happen a lot. And with our Black and brown children, especially our boys, you do see ADHD, you do see ED a lot.
So that's what I was going to say real quick, is like, whose responsibility is it, right? So it's like you said, if a parent is not aware of what goes on with their child in the school, and then you have people in the education field that are the professionals, and then the psychiatrists or the psychologists, they're there. Like, how do you hold each other accountable? Well,
depending on their child's like case manager, like who's handling the case, their child's paperwork, that's like a go-to person for them, because they can tell them, oh, the psychologist has started. Parents are a part of the team. A lot of times parents don't know that they are. A lot of times parents don't know how much power they do have being on the IEP team, and I'm constantly telling parents, if you don't agree with something, you can stop everything. If you're at a meeting, you don't agree with it, there's a process and steps that you need to take. If this is an initial evaluation and you don't agree with the evaluation, you don't have to go forward with it. You can get a second opinion. But I think a lot of parents don't know that. So they just are like, and some parents are very trusting of, teachers to do their job. They're trusting of psychologists to do their job and do what's best, for their kid. And they're trusting the school, like, okay, you're going to make sure my child is okay. You're going to make sure you give them what they need to thrive. And sometimes it's like, okay, yes, they are doing what they need to do. They're going through the process. However, what your child needs may not be at that school. They may need to go to another school, go somewhere else. And sometimes parents don't want to do that. They may have other children at that school, or the school that has what their kid needs is far away or something like that. But for the most part, what I tell parents, I always explain the process to parents so that they are aware, like, listen, when you get an evaluation, it's going to take this many days for that evaluation to be complete. They're going to call you. They're going to ask you about what your pregnancy was like. What was this child like growing up? They're going to ask you a lot of questions. Please don't take it personal. They're getting basically the background of this of your child. They're going to ask you that. They're going to reach out to the teachers. They're going to ask teachers for information. They're going to do testing. They're going to do a lot of things to get an idea of where is this child functioning. Is the child being affected at school? Is the child being affected at home? It's a lot of things that go into play. And a lot of times you just have parents, they're like, okay, well, the process is going. You're going to let me know when it's done, and you're going to call me in for the meeting and all of that. But, parents, they can, email and say, oh, where are we with the evaluation? Is there anything else I need to do? Or, but a lot of parents, I'll say they're very trusting of just the system, the school system, to do what they're supposed to do for their kid.
So now let's talk about the children who actually are in need of an IEP, right? Because there's this long-standing stigma around children with special needs, Black children with special needs. I don't want something to be wrong with my child, and subsequently your child not getting the services that they need as a result. And so let's talk a little bit about, I guess, being open to exploring whether or not your child actually does need an IEP, and how that IEP is more of a support than a label.
Yeah. I think in our community, it's such a stigma because it was a lot of us, and it was a lot of kids that look like us, in special education, in the basement, because that's where we were, out of sight, out of mind, and you do have some teachers that I'll say have not fully come out and fully are in with the new, like, this is how we go about supporting our students that have an IEP. You do have some teachers who will still single a kid out and make a kid feel some type of way. So I understand the apprehensiveness from some parents, oh, I don't want my child to have an IEP. And it's like, I understand. However, you're doing more damage being in denial, because you're wasting so much time when they could have gotten support earlier. It's like the earlier you hop on it, the earlier you can fill those gaps. You can have the support for your child. I think also a lot of times some parents just don't know how to utilize the IEP, how it's supposed to be utilized in the school, and how their child is supposed to be supported. Back in the day, it was a lot of resource. Oh, your child's getting pulled out the class, to get this support. You have some schools that still do that. However, you have some schools who, I want to say, leadership is more cognizant of it, and they will have intervention time. So everybody is going to an intervention. You don't necessarily know that I'm getting an intervention for that because I have an IEP. You have some places like that, which I think is great because you're not trying to single out anybody. But you do have, it's just like that game. I don't want my child to have a label, because some places will just automatically have the preconceived notions. Oh, you have an IEP, you must not be able to do this. I'll say they don't assume competency. They assume you're incompetent. You have an IEP. Oh, you can't do this, or whatever. And that is an assumption. So I can get the parents' apprehensiveness. But as a parent, if you are noticing, oh, my child is not reading at this particular age, my child is still having trouble with XYZ, I would immediately, talk to teachers. Have you seen this in the class? Because I've seen this when I'm doing homework with my kid, or if I'm reading to my kid, I'm noticing my kid is not able to do XYZ. The earlier you catch that, the more time you have to support your child, get the support that your child needs. I've had some students, they got an IEP in 5th grade. I'm like, oh my God, you should have got this in 3rd grade. You should have got it in 2nd. You know what I mean? I'm like, because I'm thinking of how much time has passed, and then it's like now you're in 5th grade, you're more self-aware of what you cannot do and what you have struggles with, and you're more self-conscious of that. You may not want to get the help. You may feel like you don't need it, but I think parents also need to learn about the IEP, how it's utilized. Like, with an IEP, your child can have testing accommodations, you know, in their IEP. They just because you have an IEP, it doesn't mean, oh, my child needs to get pulled out of the classroom, you know, to get the support. If it's something like speech or OT or counseling, of course, they have their individual spaces for that. But like, there's a lot of things that can be done in a classroom, and your child doesn't have to get pulled out of your classroom. But it really, really depends on what your child needs. And I'll say that's what really drives an IEP, what your child needs. Your child may not need to go to a different classroom. Your child may just benefit from co-teaching, having 2 teachers in the classroom, you know what I mean, to educate your child. Your child may just need speech and they get speech, or they may just need counseling and they get counseling, you know, counseling at school, you know. So it really depends on your child needs. And I'll say with teachers who, when you are sharing with parents the needs of children, always have data to back up what you're saying, so you can show the parent, this is what I mean when I say Johnny is declining or whatever. Have your data to show that, versus just telling a parent, oh, your son is really struggling, da 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 da. Whereas when you share that and also show, here's all his tests, and also this is what I did in the classroom to see if it can help, and I'm thinking something else is going on. I think parents are more receptive to that versus you just saying their child is struggling.
I appreciate you sharing that piece about the data, because, you know, as I'm hearing you speak, it does seem like that would soften the message of, you know, we have concerns. And with that, and you talked a little bit about it, but if you can just give us like some examples of IEPs, right? When I think of IEP, I think of things like, you know, sometimes children get additional time on tests, or they have certain accommodations for how they do assessments because of their learning style and the speed at which they grasp the information. So could you give us some samples of IEPs?
Sure. So so many. All right. So with an IEP, your IEP will also state like how much time, special education time you get, how much special education services you get. So you have itinerant, that's like 20% or less. You have supplemental, that's like over 20 but less than 80. And then full time, that's like you're in a special education classroom 80% or more of the day because of your severe needs. So there's different levels to how much time your child's IEP has. So depending on your child diagnoses, like your child can have autism, your child can have other health impairment, ADHD, they can have an emotional disability. Depending on what their needs are, that will drive the IEP. So a student can have a learning disability. They may have academic goals in their IEP. It may be math, reading, and writing. It could just be math because they struggle in math. And they can have, and then also there's something called specially designed instruction. So that's basically what are the accommodations that will be done in the classroom to help your kid thrive. So your kid may need extended time to complete assignments. Not that they can't do it, they just take a long time. They need extra time. It could be your child needs a modified assessment, modified math assessments. It may just be in math, they need a modified test. They may need study guides. That could be a specially designed instruction. So like all the teachers know, okay, before we have a quiz or a test, we need to make sure we give Muhammad a study guide. That can be a SDI and an IEP. I want to say I worked with a lot of children who had emotional disabilities. So a lot of my students had something called check-in and check-out. So every morning after they went to advisory, they had to come to me to check in with me in the morning. I'm like, did you do your homework? Did you, just ask about their morning? How's everything? If you didn't eat, go hurry up and eat breakfast right now. You didn't do your homework. You got two options. You can sit down and do it right here, or you go back to your classroom and do it. But like, it was a check-in in the morning with them. And then we would check out in the afternoon before they went home. So when they checked out with me, it was like, okay, did you have everything you need for your homework? to go home or whatever. Sometimes they caught the bus. They didn't have to get on the bus till later. So I'm like, okay, let's probably start with this subject because I know you're going to have trouble with it. Let's start it right now. So that way by the time you go home, you won't have that much to do, and then depending on the kids, some students have related services. So that's speech, or that's counseling, or occupational therapy, or physical therapy, or hearing support. You have that as a related service. Students who are gifted, is listed in the IEP, how often they will get pulled from class for their enrichment. I know the last gifted teacher I worked with, she pulled like 2 periods a day, but it wasn't the same periods each day. So that way they wouldn't be missing work from the same class every single day. So it really, those are just like, some different ones. You have some students who, they just have behavior. They have behavior goals. Nothing, they don't need anything academic. They just have behavior goals. So when you're tracking behavior, you need to make sure you actually have a tool that's going to help you track the behavior. Are you using rubrics? Are you using like charts? Like, what are you using to track this kid's behavior? And you want to make sure that whatever is being used is actually tracking the behavior. If the behavior is they are not completing their classwork, or they are not participating in class, you want to make sure your tool that you're using has that on there and is actually tracking that. If the child doesn't have an attendance problem, you don't need to have attendance on there because they don't have an attendance problem. You want to make sure it matches what you're tracking. You have some students who have trouble advocating for themselves, taking responsibility, taking accountability. Those can be behavior goals that they have. And again, you have a behavior monitoring tool to track that. So when it comes time to do their IEP, the case manager, the teachers have been progress monitoring those goals, and they can present that data to the parents so the parents can see, oh, my child is doing better, or they may be regressing, or because I track behavior so much, I always had the data to show, okay, this is why we don't need to track this behavior no more. As you can see, they're 80% and above, and they're consistently 80% and above. We need to focus on these behaviors here. So, and that's something I stress all the time to teachers is have your data to back up what you're saying. Because just think of just you. Someone comes to tell you, that's just like you go to the doctor and the doctor come and say, well, you're pregnant, ma'am. Where's the data to tell that I'm pregnant? You know what I mean? Or you have this disease, and it's like, okay, where's the test results to show I have that disease? The same thing applies to your children. You don't just take, just imagine you're that parent. You want to see results. You want to see what data was used to come to this conclusion. So.
Well, yeah, that was a lot. I mean, the way you just laid all that out, I mean, she's a consultant, so she gave you a lot of free game for real, from the parent side, from the educator side, from the principal side. And so we appreciate you giving us a wealth of value from your knowledge, your experience. If you don't know what IEP is, I'm sure you should know a little more after listening to this discourse.
So I was wondering, what tips would you give to parents who are faced with either having to decide whether or not they want to have the child evaluated, or the child already has an IEP and the parent has to find their place on the team, because you talked about the parent being an integral part of the team?
Okay, so tips that I would give parents. Well, if your child already has an IEP, I would recommend that you always get a physical copy of their IEP, so that way you can keep track just of whatever goals are being added to the IEP. This can help you keep track of if they're recycling goals and not actually producing new goals. Put it in a binder. It will help you keep it organized. Always ask for a draft of the IEP before you go to the IEP meeting, so that way this gives you time to review with the what the upcoming IEP would look like. And then this way you can kind of just write on that IEP. You can write your questions so that when you go, it's not like you're trying to think of questions in the moment. You've already had time to review that IEP. And you already know specifically what you want to ask. And also, here's a quick tip to parents. If it's a particular teacher you want to attend the IEP, you can request that. Like if your child has trouble with reading or math, you can request that that particular teacher comes. If you are thinking about getting your child evaluated, I would definitely talk with the teachers, talk with your child's teachers, and see specifically like what are the issues, like what is the area of concern, because it could be something that your child may just need an intervention. You know what I mean? They may not saying that this is in all cases, but they may just need an intervention. They may need support with reading every single day, and that's something that the school can do, and you don't necessarily need an IEP for that. However, if you feel like there's something else going on with your child, I would definitely also talk to your child's primary care physician, so that way they are involved as well. And I'm not a big advocate for medication, and I don't want nobody to think like, oh my God, you need to go ahead. However, I've seen it where I've seen it where medication has helped some children, and I'm not saying that is your go-to, but when you've seen a kid that has severe ADHD and you see them struggling to focus and crying because they cannot, crying because they're trying their best to focus and do what they need to do and they're struggling so bad, I've seen it where it has helped. I've seen where, hey, watching their diet, changing their diet, getting them involved in extracurricular activities that will, I'll say physical extracurricular activities that help them exert that energy is very helpful. So there's a lot of things that parents should take into account before, getting your child evaluated, depending what you want to get them evaluated for. Do you feel like it's an academic thing? Do you feel like it's a behavior thing? And then also, is this something that runs in your family? Because sometimes you forget the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It's like you had the same issues when you was in school, or there's a family member, or certain things just run in your family. And it's, it's in your child now. And like, I don't know if some parents forget or they want to forget or act like they didn't have no trouble, but I've run into that sometimes. And it's like, we're at the meeting, then we find out, oh, you had an IEP, or mom did, dad did. And it's like, or sometimes it's a family. Like I say, it runs in a family. Like you see all the siblings, have an IEP, so it's like also not to be in denial of anything. If you are noticing things in your child, academic or behavior, I would start with, talking to their teachers. Well, when is this behavior happening? It could be every time they take a test, they may act a certain way. Or if it's a certain subject, they act a certain way. Or it could be the teacher. They don't mesh well with the teacher's teaching style. Or, it could be that. And just getting that information, again, getting data from the teacher. And then, in the evaluation process, you can email, the case manager, whoever's taking the case. You can communicate with the school like, oh, where are we with this? Or if you don't really know that much, you can schedule a meeting to have with the teacher, their principal, you can. I tell parents all the time, you are an integral part of the IEP team. The IEP team is the parent, the student, the teachers, and whoever provides a service for that student. You are all the IEP team. You're all a part of the IEP team. So parents, if you have questions, you can definitely reach out to the school. You can reach out to the case manager. If they have speech services, you can reach out to their speech pathologist. I think sometimes parents, I don't know if they feel like, oh, I don't know if I should call or if I shouldn't. And I'm like, well, they're supporting your kid. You can contact them anytime. And hey, if all else fails, you can contact me. You can book a consultation and I can help you,
Yes. Book a free 15-minute consultation with the IEP coach. Our link tree is here on the bottom of the screen.
Then we can go from there. We can go from there. I have ebooks. I have 2 ebooks I made. I have a course that I created. I have different consultation packages. So depending on what you need, I got you.
Now, do you also provide those services to schools? I think you said that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's the consulting work that I do with schools is just, contracts for schools providing professional development and coaching to schools. And I also do like special education audits for schools as well, because if special education is not your world, you don't really know what to look for, what to see, well, like where do we need improvement at? You don't have the eye for it. You don't know what to look for. So I'll do it for you.
So yeah, as you were talking, I'm thinking, in the Muslim community, we have Claire Muhammad schools and we have other Islamic schools. And as I think of the way that those schools are structured, and I don't know the ins and outs of all of the schools, but my assumption would be that many of them may not have a special education component to them. And it would be,
do not.
Yeah, and it would be
not.
Yeah, and you got the IEP coach here to be able to supplement what doesn't currently exist in the system. So I see like a natural marriage between what you do and what those need additional support with. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I actually shared this this podcast in the Claire Muhammad Schools Network. We have a thread on WhatsApp. The video is in there already, just so you know. so if you get a call, just know that the video had already been shared in that group.
But yeah, and also with parents and this is another thing parents don't know. If your child goes to private school, they're not obligated to follow an IEP because it's not a public institution. So do know that, parents. You do have some schools where they will, look at it or whatever, but private schools aren't obligated to follow an IEP. Just want you to know that, parents. Just want you to know that.
No, that's crucial information that we'll share tonight. So, just by Sister Jamilah, we definitely appreciate you tonight for giving us this crash course in what is IEP and special education. I mean, this is a crash course. Obviously, it's so much more intricate, and we see your passion for it. I mean, we love your passion for it. I mean, it's very contagious in a good way to see people who really love the work that they do and provide a service to the community. And essentially, this is why we highlight people like yourself, because we want to give that extra exposure as best as we can to people who really need the services and they just don't know where to find it, And here we have people like yourself who a gold mine of information, who just dropped it on us in 30 minutes, a crash course on IEP. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, the Muslim community is very rich, and I want to be very specific. Our community is very rich with a lot of people who are skilled in trade or skilled in profession. And we really appreciate tonight your assistance in giving us some education. Myself, let me speak for myself, some more education. What is IEP? I work with Afro-American boys, specifically high school, middle school and high school, but also high school boys coming out of Queens. I'm a director of mentoring for our program. So it's good to know these things. And definitely, as Sister Marsha mentioned, we have a national school network with the Claire Muhammad schools who will be definitely a benefit. I could see this definitely be a benefit to them as well, inshallah. So thank you again. And listening audience, the IEP coach is here. So if you have a child and that you need to get maybe a second opinion, get evaluated, or just have questions and concerns, she got her link tree is the whole shindig.
Yes, you can definitely hit me up. On my social media is pretty consistent. It's the IEP Coach LLC, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm very consistent. So yes, you can book a free consultation, and I'll tell you if we need to go deeper. You gotta do a paid one because I'm not free. Let's tell you, everything's not free. So yes, I can support you. I had one of the last consultations I had the parent and their lawyer because they had to get a lawyer. So I was doing a consultation with the parent and the lawyer, because they wanted me to look over some documents for them and give my professional opinion. So, hey, you can definitely hit me up.
Yeah, better get her while she on the ground floor before she be on Oprah somewhere. We on this year, New Year's about to come up. They said
Hey,
New Year's prices.
better get it in for the price goes up. Better get in. But yeah, you can follow me on all my social media at the IEP Coach LLC. They share my link tree. It connects you to everything. So yes, and my website is www.theiepcoachllc.com. You can go there as well. But all that is on my link tree. So it connects you to my social media as well as my webpage and everything else.
Alhamdulillah. You got
Excellent.
some people in here give you the greetings. I see Philly in the house who to give you a shout out.
Oh,
Assalamu
look at
alaikum.
my salam, Kuda.
Then you got the West Coast. You got
Brother
Kashabi
Kashay,
in the building all
Brother
the way in the West
Kashabi.
Wa
Coast.
alaikum assalam.
Yeah. So, alhamdulillah, we're grateful for this. And do we have any last comments before we depart?
Any last comments? I would just say, parents, don't be in denial. If you know your child has particular needs, don't be afraid to take that next step to get them the support that they need, and just continue to be involved. Show up for your kid. You know what I mean? Be that advocate that you need to be. Do pop-ups and check-ins to make sure your child is being accommodated like you're supposed to, and talk to your kid like, oh, how did your day go? Like, if you know they got testing accommodations, inquire through your kid. Did you actually get, did you get your speech? Did you get, whatever, have those conversations. And if you need support, I'm here.
Excellent. Does anyone else have comments? Last comments?
Just want to thank you again, Jamilah, for coming on. This was a great conversation. I know that this is always scary for parents to even consider IEP when it comes to their children. So to have you talk about it in layman's terms and really sort of debunk some myths and also take some of that sting and stigma out of it, and really talk about the support that is intended by an IEP, especially an IEP that is done appropriately. I think it helps parents to come to terms with what their child may need. And then on top of that, listen, y'all, the sister, she's African American, she's Muslim, and I know that sounds like
No, but that helps.
bias, but some people need that.
No, some people
need
do,
that.
because a lot of, and that's also one of an additional reason I created my company, was because I was tired of being in PD. People that don't look like me coming in to do the PD, and you're telling me how to educate the students that look like me. And I'm like, when was the last time you've been in a school, or have you even worked in an urban, school setting? You know what I mean? So, right. And then I'm like, I can do a better job, and I know other people who can, but they keep hiring you to come in here, So right. It was like, okay, we need to do something else here.
Right. And that's why I say that, because that is important for people. It helps them to be able to connect and to relate and to really listen to the information that's being shared, but it's because it's coming from someone that you connect to. That's big. So thank you again for coming this evening.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Brother Dean?
Oh no, I mean, I definitely got schooled up on it. I like how early on she said she got dubbed the IEP coach. I said snatchies, you know what I mean? So that's one of my things, taking what's yours, right? Because it comes to you from different people. It comes to you for just being in the right place at the right time. And so you sharing, what's your passion and how you just fit right in with that is a crucial service, not just for African American Muslim, but for the general public in general. So thank you for just stepping up. And we encourage all of our, educators and professionals and business people. Like, the world is a void. It's a big void in a lot of these industries and a lot of these institutions. And so here we come with our faith, with our principles, with our ethics, and we have an opportunity to take it to that next level. So just appreciate you for being that model to inspire others.
Oh, sure.
Alhamdulillah. And with that, we do have an announcement, or if anyone else has announcements, please do share. But I know next week we have our year wrap-up show on next Saturday at 7 o'clock. So inshallah, stay tuned. We'll have more information on that. But we will want to end the year on a positive note with all of our listeners and all of our supporters and our previous guests, inshallah. And everyone is invited to come on and be with us for a few and tap in and just give us some words of encouragement. What are you looking forward in 2023? Inshallah. So look forward for that show next Saturday at 7 o'clock here. Also, I know Study Al-Islam is doing their New Year's prayer service 10 o'clock. I want to say that's the time. I don't know if we have the flyer. 11:30? Oh, okay. They're starting to show us the ball drop. They're starting to show us the ball drop. So 11:30 Eastern. Tap in. They got a couple presenters, inshallah, that were giving up du'as and supplications and, speaking on some topics. So definitely tap into that. Is there anything else I'm missing that's upcoming? We need to share.
The New Year, we got some New Year events coming up.
Yes.
I think we have some in the queue.
Yeah, we can bring them up real quick before we sign off. I know.
So I don't know what flyers you have, but Master Muhammad Noor has an event.
Yes.
January. There's also a bus ride for boys out of Charlotte, which is great. This one, that flyer that happened already. That coat drive that was Master Muhammad.
Oh, there's another one. My bad. There's another one coming up. I think this weekend at Master Shifa.
Right.
Okay.
It is Master Shifa.
And then, yes, Brother Ibn Mutakabir and the brothers down in Charlotte is leading the brothers to a down south tour. I think they're stopping at Tuskegee Institute and going through a couple of other significant historical sites for African American history in the South. They'll be doing that. And we shared it to our page. Do we have the flyer in the queue? If not, we'll share it again. We'll put in the comments for the brothers to sign up. It's open for all young boys for across the country. If you can go down to Charlotte, that's great, and be with the Jamaat down there, inshallah. Anything else I'm missing?
Also, Jamilah, you do a live every Tuesday?
Yeah.
Yes, I have Tuesday. The coaching corner with the IEP Coach is every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm not doing it next week because it's just a break.
Okay.
But you can definitely tune it. I stream on YouTube, YouTube, Facebook, and then also you can see my IG lives as well as on LinkedIn. You can see any past lives. But yeah, it's every Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Nice.
And we'll try to get that on the New Freedom Network. Have Bilal reach out to you.
I can send you a flyer. I can send you my flyer that I posted.
Inshallah, yes, please do. And I think that's about it for right now. Again, we'll share everyone's events that's coming up, everyone's initiatives that's coming up, and we look forward to seeing everyone, inshallah, this time, same place, same dial, same network, next Saturday at 7 o'clock for our year-end wrap-up show. Until then, peace, assalamu alaikum, and stay warm.
They ask me about religion, why? They ask me about my race and my tribe. They ask about my complexion, why? When they ask me, this is what I say. My grandfather was a Muslim, and my daddy was a Rasta. They were searching for the truth, and the Quran, they gave the answer. They put their hands up in the sky, and they ask the Lord why. We not gonna worship the creation, we only pray to the Creator. Guidance is a gift that the Lord shall give to any man or woman, whether small or big. God said you must reflect, you have to use your mind. So now you know the reason why. My grandfather was a Muslim, and my daddy was a Rasta. They were searching for the truth. In the Quran they found the answer. They put their hands up in the sky, and they asked the Lord why. We not gonna worship the creation, we only pray to the Creator. The messenger of God, the best of creation. Peace and blessings be upon him and his one nation. He came to teach the world, came to free our souls, and the charity comes from a smile. So when you see me on the road, give me a smile. I say salam alaikum to my brothers, why? Cause it's peace for you, and it's peace for me. Peace from my granddaddy. My grandfather was a Muslim. My grandfather was a Muslim. My daddy was a Rasta. My daddy was a Rasta. They were searching for the truth. Yeah. In the Quran they found the answer. They put their hands up to the sky. And they asked the Lord why. We not gonna worship the creation. We not gonna worship the creation. We only pray to the creator. We only pray to the creator. My grandfather was a Muslim. My grandfather was a Muslim. And my daddy was a Rasta. And my daddy was a Rasta. They were searching for the truth. In the Quran they found the answer. They found what they were looking for. They put their hands up in the sky. And they asked the Lord why. And they asked the Lord why. We not gonna worship the creation. We not gonna worship the creation. We only pray to the creator. We only pray to the creator.
Legacy, brothers and sisters, let's celebrate. Legacy, Muslim Journal, 60 years today. Legacy, our history, our perspective, our way. Legacy, Islam is our path, success away. Legacy, visit muslimjournal.net online. Legacy, text sponsor the 999. Legacy, 999. Legacy, muslimjournal.net online. Legacy, brothers and sisters, let's celebrate. Legacy, Muslim Journal, 60 years today. Legacy, our history, our perspective, our way. Legacy, Islam is our path, success away. Legacy, visit muslimjournal.net online. Legacy, text sponsor the 999. Legacy, 999. Legacy, muslimjournal.net online.